Wolfspirit.tv and alexcollier.org are proud to present Andromedan contactee Alex Collier. October the 6th, 2017. Webinar
42.
I can't hear it.
It will be behind the present events. Protocols of mentorship have been established and approved, and what that means and might look to humanity. And humanity's responsibility in the process of mentoring to fully achieve unconditional responsibility for ourselves. There will be a question and answer session at the end. Book now, unlimited places.
Here's your host, JP. Well, here we are, held together by string, sellotape, and special forces. Here we are. We've managed to get a very complicated and subtle workaround that enables Alex to still hear me through the little black and white wire that's going towards his right ear. Alex, good afternoon. Good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, JP. How are you?
Not bad. So, what were you going to be talking about today? That was a very long, complicated, a very long-worded introduction I did on the promo. What's that?
Well, you did, and I don't think. Well, let's just get into it. So let's just get into it. Okay, so I'll hear from you again during the question and answers, right?
That's right. I'll hang up on now. God bless you.
Okay. Okay. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. As always, it's an honor and a privilege. This particular webinar is going to be in two parts. So the next one, we will be covering more information on this because there's just a lot to cover. But listen, we're going to talk about current events. Clearly, the world appears to be going mad. Understand that the media is playing a significant role in hyping the negative. Now, there is a lot of positive things going on, especially with people striving for freedom, striving for financial responsibility, striving for governmental responsibility for its actions. There's a lot of very positives. People pulling together in communities that have been hit with storms, horrible weather, etc. But of course, none of that is getting the actual play because the narrative is constantly negative, negative, negative. We need to lower the vibration of the people, lower their consciousness. We have to keep them in strife. We have to keep them in survival. We have to keep everybody stressed out because that keeps everybody's vibration low. Because as long as their vibration is low, we can remain in charge. The minute their frequencies get high, we begin to lose control of the minds of the people. It's the same old narrative and stuff. Here in the States, of course, we have Las Vegas. Horrible, absolutely horrible, diabolical, and the media narrative simply doesn't answer all the questions at all, not even close. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing evolves until eventually the truth comes out. On October 1st, and I've seen these particular photos on beforeitsnews.com, and if you guys can get there before it's gone or they take it down and it's scrubbed, there are some photographs and I believe it's moon of Nibiru, or Nibiru moon, and it was taken on October 1st in Alaska by Federal Aviation Administration weather cams. It clearly shows one of the moons of Nibiru. It was in its atmosphere or visible for 4 hours as it came in and then started to move back out. And it is absolutely clear of day. It is enormous. And if you look at the photographs to the left, you will see in the distance what looks like a laser light. That is, in fact, the dwarf star. What's also interesting is that the weather cam shows the moon for about 4 hours. And in that 4 hours, the moon moves 90 degrees on its axis, which means that it's spinning on its axis around its star. And it's moving relatively quickly. So I would suggest all of you take a look at that. At the moment, that's all I'm going to say. But it's not an optical illusion. It is, in fact, there. It was there, and these cameras are on, and the cameras all over the planet are catching a lot of different things. But more on that at a later time. Okay? Now, the focus of this is mentorship. I want to stress something. There is a mathematical principle. It's actually labeled as Euclid's axioms and notions. And it states that all things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Okay? Things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Now, I bring this up specifically because I want you to realize that as we go through this presentation today, and we're talking about mentoring, and we are talking about moving forward as a humanity, that irregardless of the technological superiority of other spacefaring nations, star nations, irregardless of the fact that they have more self-knowledge or education than we do, things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. If you were to summarize the biggest issue humanity has regarding itself, it's lack of knowledge, okay? Lack of education regarding itself. And that's across the board with many of the extraterrestrial groups. No. The benevolents, of course, are very forward about this. There are other contactees and other people who channel, and that's one of the things that they strive to do, is to educate us and to give us more knowledge about who we are, our past, etc., and our potential for the future. Even the regressives know this, which is why they make sure that they try to keep us blind, deaf, and dumb. Okay? So, but they also know and realize that the educational piece is the piece that's missing, and that is why they've been able to hide and remain in control and manipulate us, all right? Because they have seen to it that the educational piece is removed from our reality, for the most part. Now, all human beings are born with honor and dignity. It doesn't matter what your station in life is, okay? Honor and dignity, which you are born with, which is your soul right, can never be taken from you, ever. You can only surrender it. And most people don't even have a clue that they're actually surrendering it. But my point is, all life begins with equality, because that's nature, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. So it makes sure that everything is equal across the board. Now, things happen, events maybe that nature can't control, or other elements that come in and wreak havoc on these ecosystems, these structures that nature has created. But it always begins with equality, all right? Things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. I want you to remember this. Now, I know that there's a lot of things going on. We've talked about the Atlantic Rift, where the Atlantic side of South America, the water, the tides moved away from the shoreline. We are now seeing the same thing in the Mississippi River, okay, where certain parts of the Mississippi River are absolutely bone dry and are remaining dry, and there's no water there. This is gravitational anomalies that are occurring on the planet and possibly in the planet. We have and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. We've talked about the tectonic plates, and the one in Mexico, just off the coast of in the Pacific, off the coast of Mexico, that moved 32 feet. Well, now we're seeing adjustments with the Ring of Fire and many earthquakes running up and down the Pacific coastline, okay, to adjust to the space, okay, to the vacuum, to try to fill the vacuum. And then, of course, we have the media constantly doing its thing. In the midst of all of this, the A's are still talking about the mentorship. No benevolence that I'm aware of are talking about pulling out. And I want to stress this. The end of the world is not coming. That is not our destiny, folks. Okay? And I know that the media wants to go there. I know that there are some very interesting political groups that, this is the end of the world. No, it is not the end of the world. The world isn't going to blow up. Okay? All life is not going to be extinguished. Nibiru isn't going to hit the planet. We're not going to be sucked into a black hole. That's not going to happen. Okay? And when you hear that kind of nonsense, please check in to your own inner guidance. It's so important to really place extra emphasis now, or devote more time to listening to your own inner guidance. Because as the frequencies increase, which they are, our DNA is vibrating at a faster rate. We're changing as well. Okay, our brain waves are moving quicker. They're speeding up. Many people are becoming more and more intuitive. Invest in that part of you. Okay, that part is real. That part of you has always been a part of you. That intuitiveness, that knowingness. Okay, but it's a different voice that you hear than your subconscious. or your mind. All right? And before you came into physical form and took physicality here in third density or fourth or fifth, wherever, you knew that voice. You know that voice. That voice guides you. That higher self, that soul part of you. You know that voice. It's just here in third density, it's easy to forget it. Okay, it's easy to lose focus on it because the attention that's needed to survive in this physical matrix is so intense that the focus becomes on the physicality and surviving the physicality, as opposed to blending the spiritual with the physical. Well, the physical has come, it is arriving, it is infiltrating the physicality. So it is time to focus on the balance, all right, on the physical and the spiritual. And what you will find, and what I'm finding, is that the more spiritual you become, the easier the physical part is. It's difficult to put into words. But it's not like walking through Jell-O all the time. It gets easier. Okay? It gets easier. Because when you're creating from your spiritual place, things manifest quicker, things move easier, as opposed to trying to create from a survival place and only seeing the physical. And I'm still not happy with that particular description, but it's difficult to put into words. Okay. I do not have a timeline for this. I am not sure when this is all going to begin. It could be that it's already begun and it is working its way down to the surface of the planet. But here's what I've got. Here's the newest stuff. Several star nations are going to be on point. At the moment, when they make themselves known, however that's going to occur, there will be 2 third density star nations represented by the benevolence, and there will be 2 fourth density star nations represented by the benevolence. Now, as far as the third density, I'm only aware of one, and that's the Arcturians. They're going to be one of the first star nations that to represent third density, physicality, that we will meet. And on the fourth density level, it's going to be the Pleiadians, which makes perfect sense because of their long history of interaction with Earth and Earth's races, and a group from Sirius A, who also have a long history of meeting with the Earth and its races in the past. Okay, so there's going to be 4. I'm aware of only the 3 races. I don't know if the other third density race has been agreed upon by everyone, or if it has, there's a reason that's not being shared. Okay, so the process will first be an introduction. This is who we are. This is where we come from. This is what we're like. This is what our culture is. And this is how we represent ourselves. They will then begin the process of sharing their history with Earth or Earth's races. Okay? Now, in addressing Earth's races, we're also talking about its history with Earth's DNA. And we're talking about not just humanity, we are talking about nature, we are talking about oceanic life, we are talking about fowl, birds, plants, all kinds of things. All of this that we see on Earth did not come from one cell. It didn't happen that way. Okay, so we're going to get a huge education into the incredible diversity that Earth is and where many things came from. Also, what they're going to explain and talk to us about is turning on ancient structures, ancient pyramids, and I'm told other ancient structures that are submerged in the ocean in order to hold a multi-dimensional field of energy. The structures that were here originally, and due to cataclysms and pole shifts, many of these structures sank, some were destroyed or broken, and others remain on the surface but are hidden, such as pyramids. What they're going to do is they're going to turn those back on, as well as repair the ones that are broken. And what it does is it's going to create a grid, a field of multi-dimensional energy. Now, this is not the same as the net that we've been all living on in the matrix that blocked cosmic energy. This actually is an amplifier of cosmic energy. And the purpose for this is to flood not only the planet herself with light, multi-dimensional light, but also all living things on the planet. Because most living things on this surface and in the planet have soul, has spirit. So the idea is to feed our frequency with light, okay? Permeate our physicality and our spiritual bodies with light. Something that has been very, very difficult on planet Earth for many, many thousands of years. And of course, we've covered that ad nauseum, and so have many other people, okay? Okay, repair the ancient structures. It's also for the purposes of protecting humanity from solar radiation and dramatic planetary changes. In other words, it's a field. It creates a force field. I have to go to my notes because there's a lot of information here, and I want to get this right. Form a protective grid so that humanity and all biological life can absorb multidimensional light to begin our physical and conscious evolutions. Now, we know that the Earth has made a decision to evolve into another frequency. We know that that process has already begun. We also know that many people here on the planet have also begun that process and have made a conscious decision to evolve into a higher frequency. The word ascension is used a lot. Okay, would it surprise you to know that many life forms on the planet have also agreed to participate in this process, including in the ocean, to do this process, to evolve into a higher dimension. This is why it is so important to build a field that supports us and the consciousness that has made the decision to do this. I'm told that some of this work has already begun. By dropping the grid that was created by the Archons and the Reptilians and cosmic energy hitting the planet, the purpose of that was for the Earth to begin to adjust on her own to the higher frequency, to absorb some of it, to see how she was going to react and act to that. because there was a great deal of concern that the planet was holding so much anger in certain places underneath her surface that they weren't sure how the energy was going to move, how she would adjust to that energy. To some surprise, the Earth not only absorbed the cosmic energy or multidimensional energy, but she began to expand. She began to get bigger so that she could hold more frequency. And that continues to this day. Okay, she is in fact expanding. The grid which was dismantled, that was placed by the Orion groups and the Archons, would have sent information regarding the planet's subsystems, ecosystems, evolutionary information regarding humanity and levels of energy. It would have blocked all of that. So, of course, that had to come down. All that energy now is moving through all life forms. Now, the life forms that have chosen not to experience that will become extinct. Now, this is not a situation where humanity absolutely has to feel guilty about this, I'm told. That this is a conscious decision by soul groups. And soul groups are not necessarily always human. Okay, they can be animal, they can be crustacean, they can be other things that hold soul. Okay, they're a group. The lack of progress here on the planet was, obviously there was something very, very wrong. Now, the fifth dimensional density will be introduced to humanity specifically by the Pleiadians and Sirius A. So there's going to be a process. First, we're going to meet those at our level. First, we're going to be forming and bonding a relationship. We're going to be learning about their social structures, their planetary structures, their governmental structures. We're going to be able to interact on a very regular basis and ask a lot of questions. How do you make this work? So that we can start building a body of knowledge on what works and what doesn't work. Because all we know is what's been fed us and forced upon us. And I would think most of you would agree that a lot of this doesn't work at all. It just flat doesn't work. And it hasn't worked. It has retarded growth. It has hurt humanity on so many different levels. And it has allowed a very small specific group to acquire enormous power to use against humanity. These groups that are coming do not live this model. They do not live power over models. That's not what this is about. Everyone's engaged, I'm told. Everyone is absolutely engaged. Everyone is on the same page. If they're not on the same page, there is very robust conversations and discussions regarding, the differences of opinion. Those opinions, everything is taken together and a consensus is formed that for the benefit of everyone, and then they move forward, okay? That's sort of how this works, so I'm told. Okay. A natural grid has to be first established for all life to evolve and to be placed and to be removed from an artificial grid. The positive grid, the multidimensional grid, that is a natural state, is one of love, joy, and unity. It is going to replace the artificial grid that we currently have been living under of fear and anger. Okay, and this new grid is going to be stabilized very quickly so that humanity can let go of survival and begin to truly breathe in and out with the idea of genuine freedom. Now, when I said to M, well, we know, I'm an American, we know what freedom is, he laughed. He goes, no, you don't. So, no, you don't. So what we think is freedom isn't even close to being, to truly being genuine freedom. Okay? All of this will be done with the knowledge of humanity, so as to be sure that all are a part of the ownership of the change taking place on your behalf, on our behalf. The next phase will begin with history of your planet and of all of your physical forms. And that's something I addressed just a little bit earlier, where we're going to be given first an education as to who we are, where we come from, how this all worked, where it all got started, what was its original intention in creating this space, okay? Because like I said earlier when I started this, the biggest weakness humanity has is a lack of education about itself. And that's the first thing they want to correct. Okay, they want us to know. They want us to know about ourselves. It has been agreed that because of your intense focus on physical matter, that we would share with you what your humanity is and what it is not, and fully explain the potential of your physical selves combined with a true and natural focus on the soul and or your spiritual self. It is here that much profound knowledge can and will be shared. Now, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit after I wrote this down. And I said, well, you know, how much of our reality would change of what we do and we live every day? And he said, probably most of it, if not all of it, at some point will change. Because the way we live is not in harmony with the light, with the universe, and with positive intentions. Now, that's a profound statement, because, you know, our interpretation here on Earth is that some things are pretty good. You know, there are times where, you know, things are going really, really well, whether it's a relationship or prosperity, or our physical health, great weather. I mean, there's a lot of things that we see as being very positive. In their opinion, our depth of knowledge of what it truly means to be free, to be joyful, to be loving, and to live in unity is extremely shallow. We have very little depth of knowledge of what it actually means, which is why the A's have stressed that we're going to be meeting first groups who are on the same physical level as us, and technologically just a little bit further advanced, maybe in some regards a lot further advanced, but at the same physical level. We will be able to relate to them very, very well and easily. And they've all been brought up to date, and they have all been attending the galactic council briefings as to what we have all been through here on Earth, not just this present generation, but previous generations down the road, behind us rather, what they've been through. And they have enormous respect for our drive, for our resilience, and for our longing to continue to want to move forward and to be free. It's just that our definition of free doesn't have a lot of depth, according to the A's and to these other star nations. There's more. There's just so much more that we're not aware of. Okay, because we haven't lived it. Okay, we just haven't lived it. So for too long, your races have been trapped and enslaved in ignorance, hence the education. So your greatest shortcoming is self-education. Being stuck in a dimension that offers little hope of change, simply because the programming is and has been, since the late 1950s, negative in frequency, and unrelenting against humanity. Now, I thought that was very interesting, because if you look at humanity and you look at our history, there have been a lot of wars ever since the Anunnaki came here. You know, and that goes back about 25, 100,000 years. There was the Pyramid Wars. There was Atlantis, the War of Atlantis and Lemuria. There's been a lot of negativity or change, you know, history of warfare. But he was specifically talking about our generation, the generations that are alive on the planet now, the X generation, the millennials, and us guys, the grandfathers and the grandmothers, the elders, okay? Now, what happened in the 50s? Well, our military was tricked into making an agreement with the Orion Group at what is now Edwards Air Force Base. That changed everything, apparently. Or I should say it locked it down into a fully negative, regressive grinding down of humanity. Okay, unrelenting against humanity, lowering your vibrations, your self-esteem, and causing all to focus on the negative events of political manipulations around the world. If your races continue to focus on what you don't want, you will get more of what you don't want. You must all be consciously active in your own lives, starting with positive thoughts, the desire for good deeds, and right spiritual action. Though through just these simple steps to begin with, you will be provided with higher knowledge and wisdom, but you will begin to emancipate yourselves from the strictly third-dimensional thinking that also can be a self-imposed prison. You must begin to imagine something different before you actually can create it and call it forth to you. So, this led to a discussion regarding the structures that we presently have on Earth that will be changing, that will be going away for the most part. Education, the educational system that the planet uses. I realize that this is an educated group here and that I'm preaching to the choir, but I never know where these webinars will go or who will hear them, if anybody else. So I'm compelled to share these next phases of things that are going to become radically changing. Okay, one is the educational system of the planet. The way we educate children, and I'm referring to pre-K to college degrees, apparently is absolutely appalling to other star nations. We're raising idiots, and that's exactly the way they see it. We're raising idiots. We are not raising people who can step forward and become leaders and lead humanity in a different direction into a higher frequency in any way, shape, or form, because the entire structure is based on physical science. And physical science and physicality is only the cause of spiritual knowledge. There has to come spiritual knowledge first. And this is where the biggest shift is going to occur. We need to view the world spiritually. We need to view ourselves spiritually, realizing the true essence of who we are, multidimensional beings. Once we clearly grasp that, creating physical form not only becomes easier, but it becomes more responsible. We create things naturally that are in harmony with nature, with the planet, because we understand and have a clear knowledge of the balance that we are and that we represent in the universe, being a multidimensional soul. Okay, we understand that we are on different levels at the same time. We also understand that the responsibility of living on those certain levels always comes down and grounds itself in what we now know as their density. And the good deed is to be responsible in what we create. Okay? So that's going to be one of the biggest things. That will lead to changing not only in education, but also into the physical art of healing. Most diseases begin on a spiritual level. Yes, there are physical poisons, there are physical things in the environment that can cause the physical form to get sick. But like education and like creating balance and creating unity, it all begins on a spiritual level. To treat the physical form on a spiritual level first, using color, light, and sound, will heal 90% of all diseases on this planet. And from operating on that premise, Mornay said that the average lifetime on the planet will go from 132 to 148 years. That will be the average lifetime of the physical form as this process fully begins and is integrated on the surface of the planet with humanity. So for many of us, our life expectancies will double. I would be very excited about that, frankly. And so how we treat physical ailments will dramatically change. It's almost like we're going to throw everything away that we're doing now. The educational system, it's like we will be throwing almost all of it away as well. Because we have to create a race of leaders. And the educational system doesn't do that. Not the way it's presently structured. With life expectancies nearly doubling, what we will then have, ladies and gentlemen, is what the A's and other groups of star nations have is called a law of consistency. we will not lose so much knowledge when people cross over or groups of people cross over. Okay, we will be able to build a much larger, deeper depository of knowledge and wisdom from people's life experiences so that all of humanity can draw from those experiences, from that knowledge of people who are here now before them for future generations. Now, it's one thing to have the Arcturians here and the Pleiadians and Sirius A. It's one thing to have them here interacting with us. But we ourselves are the ones living here. We are the ones here creating this reality. We are the ones here calling forth something new, something different that we want to move into, or that we want to draw to us to elevate everyone's living circumstances here on the planet to something better, something greater, something more in depth, something more expansive. Okay, we're the ones doing that. And the life expectancy to expand that will give everyone a much broader perspective on the changes. It will give us and all of us an opportunity to fully develop the knowledge that we're given and to put it into practice and make it work. Okay. The way it's presented, it may work a little bit differently with our race, with Earth's frequency. It may be different. It may be that the knowledge that we're given from them needs some tweaking, okay, to make it actually work for humanity here. And this is all knowledge we would want so that we could store it and create a depository for future generations down the road. So, you know, because we're forefathers now. All the generations alive right now, we're forefathers. We're going to be forefathers and foremothers. Okay, we're trailblazing here, so it is important to leave the knowledge, the things that we went through, the perspectives that we shared, the dialogues that we shared with each other. It is important that we do this so that future generations, should they hit a speed bump, can come back and say, okay, here's how the forefathers did it. This is what they did. This is what they looked at. These were the questions they asked. They weren't afraid to tweak spiritual truths to make it work better or simpler here in our physicality. Which now leads me to spirituality. I asked if anything that we currently have of a spiritual nature would survive the mentorship. And he said, in essence, the only thing that would survive would be Buddhism. And that's because its focus is already in the right place, and that is on the individual growth of the person and the soul and the spiritual growth of the individual. Because it will change, your terminology will be different because you will have more knowledge regarding the spiritual bodies, the energy fields that surround the bodies. This and this particular knowledge will not only help you in holding more light, more frequency, but it will also help you expand your own DNA knowledge and information to tap in to your own DNA information and knowledge, but to also alter the past by changing the present. Now, when I pressed him on that, he said a later time for that. So I share that with you because I'm still thinking about what the ramifications of all of that would be, to be able to change the past by changing the present, because we've all been taught you can't change the past. But apparently, I guess there are times when you can. And that would lead to the credence that there is no time, that everything is going on simultaneously all the time. So, and you're right, that would take a great deal of knowledge to be able to comprehend that. And with the limited information that we currently know, that would be very difficult. So Buddhism. But that will be changing simply because we don't understand the energy, the multidimensional bodies, energy fields that are attached to our soul. And I'm incredibly intrigued by that, let me tell you. So that's information that we're going to be getting. And I'm going to assume that it will start with the Arcturians and whoever the other group turns out to be. But it will really kick in with the Pleiadians, Sirius A. And then at some point, fifth density energy will be introduced. And I'm assuming that's when things will really kick in. Now, while this is all occurring, this mentorship will be in phases, okay? And as these phases occur, humanity, the planet herself, will also be rising to meet the progress and the phases itself, okay? So they're coming down to assist as we're rising up. So they're going to take us to this level. Then the next group will step in when it's time to take us to that level. And then the fifth density group will come in and we'll be moving to that level. My sincere hope is that if we can get to the phase where we expand or double our life expectancy, that all of us will be able to participate on the three levels of progression. That's my hope. I'm sure there's probably some questions. I'm going to assume that there's some questions. Next week, we will continue this conversation with more information. Remember, everything begins with equality. The groups that are coming, they know our history. They know what we've been up against. They know our faults. They know where we're misguided. They know where we make mistakes, but we're not always aware that it's a mistake because we only have this much of a perspective. Okay, the broader the perspective, the broader the knowledge. The different choices different choices can be presented to us to make different decisions. Okay, it's like okay, being fed an absolute falsehood and then trying to make the right decision based on this much information that those who forced it down our throats know isn't true. So you can't possibly make a right decision when all the information's wrong. Okay? They get that. They understand that. They understand the levels of manipulation that have permeated our humanity. And they're choosing the right groups who can not only relate to us, but I think also will have extraordinary patience, because there's going to be a great deal of righteous anger that's going to surface as we begin to learn the true history of our planet and who we are. And the religious overtones that we've been taught, just all of it, okay, just all of it. How the system has been rigged to enslave humanity. There's going to be a lot of righteous anger. And that anger needs to be channeled in a very constructive way to move us through the process of the mentorship so that we can get to our perceived goal where we want to be and be able to stand on our own, to be our own race, to be our own humanity, to be totally self-confident and free, to unconditionally be responsible for ourselves without having to be coerced. I mean, that says it all, folks. That says it all. And we need the guidance. We need the guidance because we don't know how to get there from here. None of us have been through it. Okay? And this is how the process goes. This has been happening in our galaxy and in other galaxies for a very, very long time. And though the Earth is old, humanity is not. We're young. Okay, we're still very much teenagers, if you wanted to put it in that perspective. But we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot here. And I think for the most part, a very large percentage of us knows what we don't want. We already know what we don't want. So now what we need to do is focus on what we do want and gather and garner the tools that will help us get to that place to start manifesting and creating what it is we do want. Okay? In such a way that it's responsible for everybody, that we continue to maintain open dialogue, to talk to each other and to other races, to ask for advice, but again, make our own decisions. Okay? JP, I am ready for some questions. And folks, I'm going to have to put on a earphone because we have to do this. He has to call me from Scotland in order to do the questions because there's just an issue there. So here we go. Hey, there we are.
There you are. Okay, so.
You there?
Yes. Alex, can you hear me? Alex, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Fabulous. Okay, so I'm coming in channel 1. Right. Okay. Now, let's start with the questions. Fascinating talk, Alex. Very fascinating. Michael Hudson. Hello, Alex. Good afternoon.
Mr. Hudson, could you please send me an email with your phone number?
That would be good.
Thank you. Okay,
Hudson,
question.
Phone number. There is a lot going on in our solar system. Alex, you spoke many months ago about a celestial body coming into our solar system, right ascension of planet Neptune. Craft have been detected coming in and out of the 20-mile structure. Other ship. Oh, I've lost the question. I lost the end of the question. Oh, damn it. Right, hang on. There it is. All right. No, hang on. Other ship. I'm just looking for the rest of the question, and it's just disappeared off the end of the question.
Okay. Well,
but anyway, it's about the experience of the celestial body in the solar system, 20-mile structure. What's going on?
Okay. Well, that's just one of the structures that's here. There are many different structures here. Many moons, or what appear to be moons, but they're not. That's pretty much the cavalry that is here to help. And there is apparently a process or a sequence of events that will trigger the leaving of the regressives, and then the benevolence introducing themselves and filling the void so that we don't implode on ourselves. There is just so much going on. I could probably spend 3 webinars just on that. But not everybody's even interested in that. They're really not.
I am. So this is the whole restructuring of society. Do you think we're going to move away from a hierarchical order into a more clan-like organization structure? More, I don't know. To me, that's one way of doing it. Is the clan idea?
JP, I don't exactly know what it's going to look like. I think that we're going to be presented with models of society that work for other races.
Yes, that's something I'd love you to talk about, actually.
And the reason that they're going to do that is that we have to create our own model, but we have to know what's possible. In other words, looking at the structures we have now, which are very narrow, in order to know the possibilities, we have to be introduced to other perspectives, knowledge of what those look like and how they work. Do those structures, is that something we, as humans here on this planet, can either adapt or adopt or even want to take part in? Or will we just take it all and create something totally new and unique to us? It remains to be seen.
It would be a fabulous thing to come up with something, a new model, a completely new model, blending and getting the best of everything. So
well, that's who we are. I mean, you know, we're the sum total of at least 22 different races here. Yeah. I can't see us not wanting to do something unique to who we are.
Yeah. Do you think that's what the Galactics are expecting us to do? And
they haven't said.
There's some sort of refreshing.
It could be.
If I was a Galactic, that's what I'd be thinking.
But it's a little early to tip your hand in that way, because we don't even know what's out there yet.
Yeah, we've got to explore it ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So meanwhile, back in the questions from Lauren, good old Lauren, back in webinar number 1. Yeah, you can remember that far. You talked about how the Andromedans were very convinced the super volcano at Yellowstone was not going to blow because the back of the San Andreas Fault is supposed to blow out and relieve the pressure.
That is correct.
Do you think the movement of the tectonic plates will affect this scenario?
I believe that it's all part of the process. I absolutely am convinced that Yellowstone's not going to go. It's not going to go.
Okay. From Björn, we talked about tinnitus a couple of webinars ago. Alex, have you given more thought to what might cause this, or have you had any insights? Sorry,
I'm sorry, I haven't, Björn. And I have it. It's on my list of questions to address with Mornay when we get to a place where I can ask a lot of questions.
William Pepper, could you speak about the light that zaps you upon leaving a lifetime? I might be conflating what you have said about this with what I have heard from other sources. Your comments about near-death experiences bring us up more questions in this context than I could ever begin to list. I hope Yeah. Could you speak about the light that zaps you upon leaving a lifetime?
The life that zaps you upon leaving a lifetime.
The light. It's being flashed to remove your memories. I think he's referring to.
I don't know anything about that. I mean, otherwise I'd be an idiot and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I don't know about that. That's not my experience at all. Now, do I think that? I think we're given amnesia when we come back in, reincarnate. But your DNA maintains all knowledge of everything that you've been. I don't know how to answer that question. I absolutely don't know.
Alex, I think he's referring to the light that you get when you come in, because when you leave the lifetime, you remember everything, don't you? I think it's just got it around the other way.
You review your entire life.
Yeah.
I don't.
So you do have to have that.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. All right. Here's another question. This is I've not heard this one before. From Mauro. Hi, Alex. My question is about left-handed people. Are left-handed people a result of Orion manipulation, or is this people have been chosen to come in to provide a different way of thinking? Did the Andromedan share any information about these kind of people?
No, that is not a question I would ever ask. But my intuitive response is that it's just people coming in with a different perspective or a different way of doing things in order to add contrast and some balance. But I'll ask that question. Yeah, you're right, JP. That's not a question I've ever had. I'll ask that.
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, all right. So here's William Pepper again. To restate my earlier question, you spoke about people's near-death experiences and their experience of the light. And how is this different from the light that zaps you and erases your memory upon leaving a lifetime? Now, we've established that doesn't happen. I could be conflating what you've said. A voice said, all right, so I've been dreaming a mermaid. And a voice said, no, I don't think this is something. No, that's sorry. Sorry, no, that's two questions that have come across. So, yeah, we've already. So, somebody else, and I can't remember, I can't see the thing. I've been dreaming about mermaids. I've been dreaming a mermaid. A voice said, it looks like a human, but it is an animal. Please, do you know anything about mermaids? So, forget the light question. Done that. Mermaids. No?
No. I don't know much about mermaids at all. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know everything. Oh. I don't know everything. I don't.
Oh, Alex, you surely do.
You know, my fuzzy head would probably explode if I did.
All right. Okay. So, now here's a very interesting question from Alaria. Is the space fence and solar warden not an issue for the groups that are coming?
No. Are you kidding? Oh my God. No. They could be in Walmart before they even knew they were here.
All right.
You know, the benevolence could be shopping Walmart before the solar warden even knew they were here. So no, it's not an issue, and they know it. And you know, the groups have had dialogues with benevolence. They know what's going on now. It's just, how do you fix this whole thing? And our particular space groups, most of them are incredibly amazing people. They don't know how to fix this themselves. So this is going to be a group effort. The introduction is going to be a group effort. The This was such a good question, because I didn't want to go here, and yet here I am. Okay. It could
know. We need to know, Alex.
It could very well, because I don't have all the data. It could very well be that the actual introduction to these other star races will be made to us by our own Starfleet. We will find out about them first, and then they will introduce us to the benevolence and say, look, here's what's happened. Here's our history. Here's how we found out what was really going on. Here's where some of the technology has come from, and we've needed help in order to fix the situation and to protect humanity. And these are the groups that are here to assist. Don't be surprised if something like that occurs. It wouldn't surprise me. It's logical to think it could play out that way. It is.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it'll be a lot. It'll be a lot.
Well,
but that shift, that shift right there, that will change humanity's perspective like that. Knowing that we have the fleet, that we've traversed the solar system, that there is life out there, and this is what we know. Here's the technology we've learned and we have. That will change humanity's focus on survival dramatically. I mean, that'll move us from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. And for you old guys, you get that, right? The Flintstones to the Jetsons, in short order.
Yeah, because this is the interesting thing, isn't it, Alex? It's the whole all this science fiction stuff that I've been watching, and you've been, we've all been watching this for years, and we saw this film, Galaxy Quest. We've spoken about this earlier, a few years ago, and there's this race that says we have your historical documents, and
right.
and they're showing Galaxy Quest, Star Trek, and they had no concept of acting. They had no concept of lying. They were, they couldn't even drive the ships, but they had to deal with this enemy force that was coming in. You have written some science fiction. Where is it, and when is it coming out?
It's in my
drawer. How do we make it?
It's in my drawer.
Electrify your chair so that you get it out, because I'm sure it's going to be brilliant.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
Yeah, but
there we go.
We want Captain now. Anyway,
we're on the people's dime here. So what are their questions?
Okay. All right, Björn, Alex, you have talked about the ETs disabling nuclear weapons. Has North Korea actually detonated nuclear bombs, or is this fake news? So what's the scene with the bomb thing?
Okay, great question. To answer regarding North Korea, I don't know. Yes, that's what I have been told all along, that they would not allow nuclear weapons because of what it does. It rips holes in dimensions. At the same time, I have been concerned if, in fact, nuclear weapons are being tested underground. And if it is true that they're being tested underground, I cannot reconcile the two realities. I don't know how to reckon that. So at the moment, I don't have an answer. My focus is that there will be no nuclear anything. That just simply isn't going to be a reality. And that's where my continued focus is. That's on my list of questions. In fact, somebody emailed that to me, I think just before the last webinar. And It's a very good question, and it absolutely deserves to be answered. If this is true, then why is this being allowed to occur? No one else is testing nuclear weapons, though, just North Korea. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
From Alaria, will the ETs that are coming be affected by the negative morphogenic resonance on the planet? And how will they protect themselves from it?
No. No, they shouldn't be affected by it at all, because consciously they know it's all bullshit. And by setting up the grid and turning on the sacred structures to create a multidimensional field of energy on the planet, the energy should shift dramatically, very quickly. It'll relieve all the pressure. It'll just dissolve the negative frequencies right away. Because what is negative energy? It's fear and anger. It's what it is. And neither of those are actually real thought forms, per se. They're really not. So it should dissolve right away.
Fabulous. Will the subconscious, from Yogi Odi, will the subconscious become more readily accessible after the change?
I don't know. I haven't been through it yet. I don't know.
There you go. All right, Björn, one more. Have the Andromedans talked about the rogue AI being a bigger threat than the regressive aliens? Does the rogue AI already control alien races that are in contact with us?
Good question. Very, very good question.
It's the Borg and the Klingons all rolled into one, isn't it? AI, sorry.
If I'm correct, based on previous information that we were given, which I've shared with you regarding the Archons, that particular threat is or has been or is in the process of being completely contained so as to not infect or enslave any other conscious living society. JP, you there?
I just thought that was a long, pregnant pause, Alex. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. From Luca, what do the Arcturians look like? And I think later on somebody also says, what do the Lyrans look like?
Okay. I've not met any Arcturians myself, so I don't know for a fact, but I understand that some are human, some are aquatic life forms that are very high in consciousness. Some are bird-like as well, or God, there's a word. Not bird-like, but there was another word. They fly. They fly. They fly in the sky. So I'm guessing that the first group we meet will probably be humans that'll look very similar to us. And at the same time, they will introduce the aquatic to the oceans, because that's where some of the structures that need to be turned on also need to be fixed. They're in the ocean. So it would make sense that they would have a double approach in order to deal with the surface and what's underneath the water, because we don't have the ability to do that like they do. That's their habitat. That's not our habitat. And as far as the fowl, I don't know. The bird-like, I don't know. That's what I know. And I think there are people on the planet. I think there's one or two people who are contactees with Arcturus, and I'm sure that there's several people who are mediums who are in contact with. Maybe they can shed some light on those particular cultures, being more familiar with them than I am. So it might be time for them to come forward.
Yeah, we have one on the show on Wolf Spirit on the fourth Sunday of the month on the Sunday. It's
well, there you
go. Carlenezu.
There you go.
So there we go. Now, what about Lyrans?
My understanding is that they're, for the most part, human beings. Human beings, like we would see ourselves, except that they're much bigger, stronger. I believe they have 6 digits. They're of different skin color. Some are black, some are red, some are white, some are blue. And that's only because of where their races formed their populations around specific stars that emanated a different frequency or color. The human bodies would adapt to that. Physicality would adapt to those specific light frequencies, which is for the different colored skins. So that's what I know.
Okay, thank you. From Mark, what is the true nature of the planet Jupiter? They say it's not a gas giant anymore.
What is it then?
No. They say, planet Jupiter is not a gas giant. Like Pluto is not a planet. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Anyway, this is something this week. So check it out.
In my opinion, Saturn's far more interesting than Jupiter at the moment.
Why?
So why? Let's save that for next week.
Oh, a bit of a what's the word? A teaser there. So
Teaser. Yes.
Even
I'm throwing the fishing line out.
Yeah. So even K, so rather K-A-Y. What's happening to the adventures of Captain Dinar? See, somebody is already, that was before I asked the question as well. So
Captain Dinar is still asleep in my drawer.
Right. Okay. From Gaia Warrior, are Morine and Visayas? Can you also spell their names so that people can get it? Are they related to each other?
No, they're not related. Visayas is no longer in physicality. He crossed over in November of '98 at almost 4,400 years old, our time, in our linear years. So he had a full life, and the spelling was Vasais, and M is pushing 2,100, I think, or 2,200. I don't keep track of that anymore. And I spell his name Morenay.
Okay, thank you. Again from Gaia, a previous comment you made on the last show was regarding the A's. They have the knowledge to know that doing specific things in their frequency will constantly raise the vibration of their race. Can you mention a few of these things, please?
The expression of joy, the expression of love, the idea that everything they do is for that goal, is to experience love, joy, and unity with their entire race. They look out for each other, they see each other, and experience each other as family. So what's happened over multiple generations of them is that they literally, the entire civilization has become one entire soul group that moves together in harmony. It's like a huge flock of birds. If you ever see them flying in the sky and they're moving like this, they're all in harmony. That's how the race is. They all move in harmony. And it's because it comes from a higher place, a spiritual place. It is just the most healing thing you could ever see. I don't know how else to say it. They just so have their shit together. You know, they just so have their shit together. I mean, it's something to emulate, and I'm sure when, you know, we will be learning about that. We will be learning to share a consciousness of us, you know, truly living as one family, and actually learning to see each other that way. I mean, we talk about it here on Earth, but it isn't real. It's not real at all. It's just all talk. We simply don't know how to see each other as extensions of ourselves. We just don't.
I am another yourself. Right. Okay, so first from Bjorn. Is it so that we now live in a free will zone of the Milky Way galaxy? Is that different for the A's in the fifth dimension and the Pleiadians in the fourth dimension? Or is this depending on where in the universe we live? Yeah, free will. Is it to do with, you know, is it the location?
Okay. Let's go back to the very beginning of the presentation today. Things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Okay? All life, everything begins with equality. Everywhere is a free zone, is a free will zone. Okay? Even in Orion, even in Alpha Draconis, it originally is or was and still is a free will zone. It's just they don't allow the governmental, the caste structure of the reptilian race doesn't allow for the expression of free will. That doesn't mean it's not a free will zone. Okay? It just means that this particular soul group has agreed to live in slavery and in fear until they change their mind and decide not to. Okay? And then it becomes a free will zone again. It's not like this piece is carved out and, okay, this is slavery, and then we have free will zone, and then we have another piece that's slavery. No, that is not how this works at all. It has to do with consciousness and the agreement that people have to live in either slavery, tyranny, or enjoy and expansion, spiritual expansion. Okay, it all depends on the soul group and the consciousness of the people. We've always had free will. We just didn't know how to exercise it. We didn't know how to express it because we had been fed all this crap, starting with the Anunnaki, okay, that the royal families, the monarchies, owned everything and they owned all the people. And they could do whatever they wanted. That is such a crock of shit. Okay, but we bought into it until we didn't. There you go.
There you go. From Leo.
We got time
Yeah.
for one more question.
All right. Yeah. Alex, I have been noticing this year the appearance of cloud sylphs in the skies that I have pictures of. Often they look like cirrus clouds that many people thought were legend. Have you been seeing them in your skies recently?
I've seen a lot of strange stuff in the skies here. I think that there is an enormous amount of activity going on in and around the planet. Some of it is caused by natural clouds. Some of it is by energy that's built up in the atmosphere. And some of it is because of spiritual frequencies or energies in the form of starships or spiritual beings that travel without a starship.
Exactly. But not everybody needs a starship. So, from Mark, have you got any more?
What?
Got any more minutes?
Actually, I don't. I'm already over. So let's just do this last question before they knock on the door.
Okay. Here's from Mark. Any way for us tiny little Earth souls to personally show our willingness to initiate and or make contact?
Oh, man, I'm asked that question a lot, and I don't have an answer. Except try to consciously continue to create the space. I get that asked a lot, and I don't have a definitive answer because I'm still trying to figure out why they chose me, frankly. Mark, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, interesting question to end on. And maybe by coming to these webinars, you're initiating some kind of contact.
Anything and all of it is possible, you know? Guys, I love you. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Thanks,
Good night,
JP.
Alex.
James, thank you.
Bye.